On to the last match of the tournament. This time it's for all the money. That voice in the background here is NZ Game Wizard. I am a Philophoenic, and we have the top 4 players in this tournament: Shell Cheesy, Base Invader, Lee Kish, and Dryad. What do you think about this map?
I like Nomad on this map is my first thoughts. I usually think that when I see this much yellow, and if you're down here in the lower right
It is an
corner.
electronics colony.
Yeah, that's true. It's not
So maybe you don't pick up Nomad first. Maybe that's like
exactly.
a third found you do. The question is, what better founds are there? Are there any better founds? I mean,
Well,
obviously, it always can go expansive. I'm
it
not sure that expansives can be strictly better.
it depends on
But
how you feel about carbon and scavengers. I know people out there who think that 3 low carbon's no good, but in this case,
well,
I'd be looking at that patch in the north. Even if it's not really near anything but ice, you do have water. You can work it.
now Base Invaders should go for that Nomad back for the last found.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's simply to be something different.
A scavenger HQ has
They're
been
gonna
founded.
instead go for Scavenger, so nobody willing to brave the electronics. We have Shell Cheesy going for an expansive in one of the spots I was thinking might work because it's just kind of in the middle of everything. You're not too far away from the silicon, you're not too far away from water, you got iron nearby. The only thing about this is you're a little bit constrained for building, but they're going to be able to upgrade HQ2 first.
Shell Cheesy and Base Invader are both in an HQ that I would consider to be dangerous when you've got these EMPs on the map, because those EMPs are about taking down bases that are squished together, and when you've got a found like those two have gotten, you're going to be stuck with a squished found. That's just all there is to it.
An expansive HQ has been
Yeah,
upgraded.
Dryad. If Dryad can control their debt from shipping, which right now isn't an
A
issue,
scavenger HQ has been
their
upgraded.
found should be okay. They are going to be able to grab this medium water pump from by Lee Kish and then another water. So Lee, who
A
also can
scientific
upgrade just
HQ
now,
has been upgraded.
they picked an interesting scientist spot going for the electrolysis reactor
We call it the no
first.
steel scientist, and
It
with these
can work.
pirates on the map, it's disincentivized. We'll just put it that way.
Right. So, yeah, the pirates there could make this pretty painful, plus only going to get 2 steel mills, not a triangle. And unlike expansives, which have half price steel buildings, scientists pay full price for everything. And
Shell,
this water patch,
yeah.
the water patch that they were going for is getting eaten up by everybody else.
Yes, that is very true. Shell is buying into glass like nobody's business, which is what you want to do when you've got 4 glass-consuming HQs on the map. You know you're going to need 115 glass. I mean, that's probably your HQ and then your next HQ upgrade right there. So having that in the bank means that it's only your ability to make money that's stopping you from upgrading, and you're making it more difficult for your opponents because they can't pick up that glass at the cheap price you did. Now they're stuck at $109 a unit glass after that shortage. Also, a shortage happened, by the way, and it made glass even more
Yeah.
valuable. So, great move from Shell Cheesy there.
Now, Base Invaders going into, I like this, 2 glass kilns. I probably only needed to go into 1 elemental quarry. They they were grabbing some of that water from Lee, and then they decided against it. I still think grabbing at least 1 water would be a good idea. Sure, it's cheap now, but you don't have good access to it long term.
Yes.
So ensuring that you at least have some decent water that could have adjacency bonus would be a good
Another
idea.
powerful move is if you can't get good water, if you can get a low next to some good water, you can typically use a mutiny, and the adjacency bonus will help make up for that fact and will make the mutiny more effective than it would otherwise be, and it generally can buoy you in circumstances where you
Or
can't get
slant
what
your
you
money.
need. And yeah, there's slant. I mean, that's more of something you plan for. A mutiny at 2,000, that might be something you could reach right now, but at
Yep.
$6 a unit
Scavenger
water, maybe you
HQ
don't
has
want
been
to.
upgraded.
The Cell Cheesy is sitting on as much aluminum as they're going to need for maybe the rest of the game.
It's a good way to play.
650.
But
They could rotate those aluminum
yes.
panels out, those aluminum mines out into some solar panels or something like that. Only 2.9K each.
Once you've got what you need for the game, and realistically 700 of basically any resource, except maybe silicon for a or a nomad, is sufficient for the game, you
Or
probably want to transition those buildings into something else. Power's always a good
now,
option.
there's one location where 700 is not enough, and that is Io, because the
Yes.
space elevators need, what is that, 400, 600? Something
Yes.
ridiculous amount of aluminum. But this isn't Io, this is Mars.
For
A scavenger HQ has been
not really anything
upgraded.
I could say to disagree with that. That's correct.
Base Invaders up at HQ4. They're in 4 greenhouse farms. Would like to see them grab some water now. It is cheap now. With this much water production on the board, it's not going to be cheap for very long. Look at that deep, deep incline on the water graph there.
And yet someone somewhere is sending out a little bit. Wondering if it's Chelcheesy, maybe? I'm sure it's not a huge deal. Really fortunate time for Base Invader to have switched into those solar panels. I was a little dubious about whether or not they would push enough for him, but then the solar flare came in,
Now
and
he's making 1.8K in pure money.
yep, and someone did what they absolutely had to do there. It sucks that they couldn't trust to put it down directly on the patent lab, but you've got to stop that money flow because people will win. They'll win quick.
Let the bidding
Yeah.
begin.
Yeah. I mean, still getting 500 in pure cash. Not bad for a single tile
Yeah.
at this stage in the game. Lee's going for a patent rush, going for teleportation, which is probably necessary given their steel situation.
What would you put carbon scrubbing at? Maybe not that high if you're Base Invader.
Congratulations.
I guess for 24, I mean, that's a good pickup.
Maybe not that high when
The
you
black market
have
is
carbon
open for
yourself.
business.
That's kind of, yeah. I guess it's depriving. You know, it's kind of. It does let you have, you know, the decision process where you can say, all right, I'm not going to need more than this low and this medium carbon because of the fact that I'm going to use those for upgrades and I'm just going to make what I need in electronics, say, and I won't need the carbon because of carbon scrubbing. So not eating your own supplies is a good thing when you need to upgrade. Nomads have that trouble where they need to put down solar panels, they need to put down glass, and they realize, oh, I'm not upgrading as quick anymore.
The patent lab is
Lee had the ability to upgrade, they just lost it. Dryad has the ability to upgrade. Both are probably a little bit worried about the cash on hand that Base Invader has. But Base Invader's almost paid through all of that debt from that auction already,
A scientific HQ
which
has
is
been
a bit
upgraded.
ridiculous. They did mutiny a
An expansive
geoplant,
HQ has been upgraded.
so doing quite well. Lee getting HQ4, going into nanotechnology for their pan lab. Good choice with this many expansives. Virtual reality would also be a good choice. Putting down some glass kilns. Can't
caught a
disagree
dirty
there.
rat trying to break our
They
stuff.
rotated. They're deciding to kill the price of water, or stockpile a bunch of water. Not sure I agree with that decision.
An expansive HQ
Shell
has been
Cheesy
upgraded.
HQ5. Did we lose you again, NC Game
The
Wizard?
black market
No,
is open for
you're just doing a
business.
really
Okay.
good job, and honestly, we're in a spot now where everybody's just kind of trying to catch up. Shell Cheesy actually has kind of launched ahead, but they're in debt, and so Base Invader could try to pick his spot
Base
here.
Invader's going for Lee. I'm not sure. Well, that was a really good freeze. The one found here. The Base Invader might just barely have enough income to pull
New
this
land
off.
is available for
I
auction.
see this as justified because while it is very difficult for Lee to actually move himself into a game-winning position from here, this is what we'd call a mondo good subsidiary.
Bidding closed.
Yeah, scientist with teleportation,
Yeah, it doesn't
nanotech.
it doesn't need steel because it doesn't need to make transitions. It just needs to get into what's profitable and then make your life easier because you don't have to make as much of those resources to stay out of debt.
Yep. Unfortunately, Shell Cheesy was busy paying down debt, so they couldn't attack Base Invader, and then Dryad. Well, they did use a cooldown somewhere. Not entirely sure where, but that would have been a good time to, toss an EMP on somebody who's going to get a scientist
Looking
with teleportation.
looking at the chat log, Dryad appears to have dropped an EMP somewhere. So I'm
Okay, so maybe
guessing
they were the one who did attack Base Invader, but unfortunately it was too little too late.
yes.
So Base Invader is in a pretty good spot. They picked up the only thing is that they're on HQ 4.
They've got
And
a
they do have
little
to
bit
upgrade
too much
for it.
silicon for a scavenger. 700 to be exact.
Yeah, time to rotate out of it into something else.
Yes.
The issue that they may
Oh,
have,
still no water, by the way, on Base Invader, as best I can
yeah,
tell.
no water. Well, their subs killing the price of water though. They
Thankfully.
indirectly have water.
Yes.
Question is, alright, can Shell Cheesy and Dryad team up to take out Base Invader? It's in both of their best interest to do so.
Well, it depends on how this off-world goes. Shell Cheesy putting up an off-world does not have a hologram for it. With 81,000 somewhere, even with a lot of that being represented in the cost of the off-world, finding the money to get into sea-level debt, yes. Finding what you need to get out of that D so that you can buy the Goon Squad and hologram that you need to make this play, because an off-world can save you if you're on the border at D-level debt. It really can, but it has to be a sneaky off-world that people don't see until a little bit too late. That's not the case.
Can't let them get this.
One of their
Get it
other
now
problems
before
right now
it's
is
too late.
they're earning more debt because they're sitting on 3 solar panels at $13 power, 2
Yes.
geothermal plants,
So-
and food is $263.
Let's also not forget that water, while we're sure it's going to become more valuable as time goes on, is currently $2 a unit. And he's got those 3 investments into it. That's usually fine for an expansive, but he has a lot of water. It's time to do something with the water, to make
Our
food.
fortune awaits.
Yeah, I think they're still making if they rotated the solar panels and they didn't go into that off world and they teamed up with Dryad, Base Invader might have bit the dust.
Yeah. As is, I see Base Invader moving decently comfortably into the end game here.
It would have been pretty close.
One thing I think to point out, now that I've had a little bit of time to actually have an independent thought for myself, because it takes me a little while sometimes, is all I'm saying. Anyway, is these solar panels, something players don't realize is we do discourage having buildings away from your HQ, but you can see here these tiles between Shell Cheesy and Shell Cheesy's other tiles in the solar panels, they're not usable. You can't put pirates down on them. So these could be farms. And it would not be bad at all, because that, while there's still a shipping cost associated, is entirely safe as long as there's no magnetic storms.
HQ has been
Off-road
upgraded.
shipment launched. Look at all the
Yep,
money.
those would have been fine to be farms. Not ideal, as you'd still be gaining the debt from them, but an interesting choice for Shell Cheesy to go into Dryad.
At this
the
point,
problem
Shell
is-
Cheesy's in the death throes.
Caught red-handed.
I don't think Shell Cheesy's not going to be able to buy out Dryad fast enough to be competitive with Base Invader. It's team up together or lose.
Sometimes, when you're in a situation where there's one big scary guy that you and another person have to fight, you and the other person get into a little fist fight over who has to fight the scary guy first. And it's a fight that you can't really win and you can't really lose, because either way you're just making it more difficult for you to fight the person who's the genuine threat.
What a payout.
That's kind of what you
Sure.
see sometimes in free-for-all.
Shell
We
cheese
have a
is $200,000
claim
away
available
from
to
the
the
buy
highest
on
bidder.
Dryad.
Yeah.
They're making $31,000 a lot. They are losing an incredible amount of debt per second. What is it? Okay, fine. It's only now only negative 300, 132. So it's
At this point, the interest is the real devil.
yeah, the interest is going to be the killer. They're going to go from D+7 to D+4 to D+7 to D+8. And their
Congratulations.
stock price
Says
is going to tank all the way down to somewhere in the teens.
to get a better
Below.
bond rating, which might not be the most accurate way to say this, but in order to get to sea level debt, they need to pay to $152,000. So they're going to need to pay out $140,000 in order to just get to the point where they're only dying to interest.
And now Base Invader says, I'm going to take that cheap stock and thank you for the present in Dryad, by the way. That subsidiary is making Base Invader a healthy $990 per second, almost 1,000. Base Invaders also
The
still
hacker
making a
array
decent
is
amount of money
finished.
themselves. They're
Time
going
to
into
change
snipe
our
drilling
passwords.
and a hacker array.
Something that's always
They
worth thinking about,
still haven't gone into water.
you know, they're surviving. Then that subsidiary means that they really don't need the water.
Well, the subsidiary is out of water too.
No, I know, but it's just making so much profit. I mean,
Price manipulations to
it should be
shortly.
fine. I mean, as long as these farms don't get out of hand, which they are turning themselves off, so it should be fine.
Yeah, too bad Shelby is Shell Cheesy, sorry, is the person with plenty of excess water.
Yes.
And yeah, they're now D+11.
Optimization center
A
is
little
ready.
bit off, I guess.
Time to
Not
start
D+7,
improving
D+11 is
everything.
what they
Black
run.
market is
So in a free-for-all
business.
situation, an important thing to keep in mind
Prepare for
is
pending
it's a
market
lot
adjustments.
easier to stop one person from making $500 a second off of a single tile like an off-world, whereas it's really difficult to stop an entire subsidiary because that's all of their buildings. And so Base Invader's making $1,000 a second, and it's also $1,000 a second that's really difficult to attack. Whereas obviously the off-world, Shalchizi can't actually defend it. When you're in D-level debt, you can't get into the black market to buy goon squads, to buy most things.
Successful off-world
You could
shipment.
throw an EMP
Make
down
room
on
for the
all
profits.
these electrolysis reactors that are making north of 150.
Here's the problem with that. Then you're leaving your opponent's buildings that are actually directly his. It's really a situation where there's
Yeah.
no
The engineers
right
have
way to move
advanced
forward except for
production.
don't let them get that much of a subsidiary.
And if they do, try to buy them out
Yeah, teamwork.
instead of
Teamwork, guys.
going against each other. Because there was that moment in time where Shell Cheesy canceled out of their off-world, and then they and Dryad both bought into Base Invader. It would have been really close as to whether they got a majority by Base Invader. Dryad was willing to do their part.
That said, it really doesn't even feel good to be in that spot where you're trying to rely on someone else who you aren't really communicating with to do the right thing by you. And it's even questionable, is that even really the right thing? Because it's very difficult to split in free-for-all the big player and have that split somehow be equitable.
Launched. Look at
It's
all
the right thing because give yourself a chance at winning versus just lose. This would
Yes.
give yourself a chance at winning.
The key word there is chance, because it's always going to be difficult in these kind of a situation to
And Base Invader just received
turn it around.
$52,000 off of that interest tick on Shell Cheesy, thanks to financial instruments.
our
My
methods
goodness.
continue to improve.
Sometimes financial instruments doesn't pay out, and other times it's crazy not to have it.
Gold.
Yep.
So this is going to be a relatively straightforward
Pirates.
win
I
for
hate
Base
this
Invader.
filthy
Two
bandits.
subsidiaries.
Probably could win already if they sold out those 2 clips of stock.
Yeah, they only need another $300,000 to win.
Yeah, so
Launch affirmative.
Well
What a
done by Base
payout.
Invader, identifying that early majority buy and then going for it.
yeah.
Optimization routine
I
successful.
I do like to see players with that sort of aggressive instinct.
I do like that Base Invader did
The
think
black
about
market is open
optimizations
for
and
business.
patents, going for the late game strategy. Making money is usually not enough. Sometimes on Ceres it can be, but on Mars you almost always need to have gotten at least a patent to fix up whatever it is about your HQ that's not perfect, and then some optimizations to really make that
Get
cash
you to
appear. Yeah.
push you to the next level.
It's not so bad to spend 100,000 on an off-world if you've got your steel optimizations down, because then you're making enough steel to maybe make that okay.
The
But
off-world market is finished and awaiting
you can
orders.
theory craft about it all day,
The
but at the
engineers
end
have
of the
advanced our
day,
production.
the
Successful
reason why
off-world
these
shipment.
advanced buildings are
Make room
locked
for the pirates.
behind being at a certain HQ level is because if you got into them too quickly, it would be unfair because they're really good.
Well, there is a faction that can get into them too quickly, and that's elites, and then they just die because they don't have the
The
upgrade
black market is
resources they need.
online.
See, a different faction would have the claims that they need to get that done, is all I'm saying. I firmly believe that at some point or another, it was decided that you couldn't have a patent lab at level 1 because it was just too good.
You can get it at HQ2 though.
Our methods continue
Yes.
to improve. Off-world market
I
is
have
assembled.
seen Death
Our
Tacticus win
fortune
off of
awaits.
HQ2 Patent Rush as a scientist. I don't recommend trying it at home though.
No,
Not until you get a, you know, once
try
you
it at
can
home,
attain
but don't
to.
expect to win.
Mm,
Okay, Lakesh, okay. Ah, well, sometimes you buy, sometimes you get bought.
it, it was at that point. To be fair to Lee, like it wasn't immediately obvious that Base Invader had the income when they upgraded,
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden it was, oh, they do have the income. Oops,
you can't
I
necessarily.
made a terrible mistake.
Exactly. Sometimes when you're looking at the amount of cash someone has on hand, and even when if you watch it for a few seconds to see kind of what are they getting in roughly a tick a second, and what you find is, oh, they're not making so much as I thought. It's not so bad. And the thing is, if you look over their HQ, they're making a transition.
Yeah,
And in 10 seconds or so, it's not going to be a comfortable time for you.
right.
So map awareness is a huge thing.
Yeah, perfect information. So mostly perfect
Yes.
information, I should say. The exception of holograms and a few things that you have to mouse over to get the details.
That is
That and optimizations. You can't tell how many optimizations somebody had.
that's really one of my favorite things about it is no map looks exactly like another map, and as a result, you have to use your critical thinking skills. What's going to happen? And sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, and that's the beauty of it is I go into this and even though there are, we say, oh, this is going to play out in a pretty standard manner, there are standard parts of the game, but they never ever fit together in quite the exact same order. You have to figure it out. It's a puzzle. It's like a puzzle board game with friends on the internet.
That moves in real time
Yes.
and
Well,
it's quite as fast and frantic like StarCraft sometimes.
yes. Um, I think what it comes down to is Offworld never moves that fast, but you are so worked up because you want to win. There's only one winner, and it's going to be me this time. And time just no longer works the same way.
Now, if we look at the balance sheet just a little bit, we can see Base Invader, those early buys into subsidiaries, $612,000 in dividend revenue.
My goodness.
That's a wee bit more than Shell Cheesy's $183,000 in off-world money that they made. Although to be fair, Shell that doesn't count Shell Cheesy's off-world launches after they were purchased.
Yes.
But overall, a very strong game from Base Invader, and we can see why they've won the 3 games in this tournament and why they are our champions of the
Congratulations, Base
8K
Invader.
tournament.